there were 4 Catholic ladies. They were bragging on their sons. The first one said, "My son is a priest. When he walks in the room, everyone calls him Father." The second one said, "My son is a bishop. When he walks in the room, everyone calls him Your Grace." The third one said, "My son is a cardinal. When he walks in the room, everyone calls him Your Eminence." The fourth lady said, "My son is 6'3", has a broad shoulders, is incredibly good looking, and dresses impeccably well. When he walks into the room, all the ladies say, 'Oh my God.'" Dear friends in Jesus Christ, the primary symbol of the Christian faith is the crucifix, a reminder to us that Jesus died a victim of violence. Although violent towards no one, he was violently put to death by a coalition of religious and political authorities. The most significant person in early Christianity after Jesus was Paul. Although a violent man in his early life, after his meeting with the risen Lord on the road to Damascus, he, like Jesus, was violent towards no one, but was violently treated by many and was eventually beheaded in Rome. Both Paul and Jesus were able to recognize the good in those who were different from them and even in those who were most hostile to them. Paul's most violent opponents were the people of his own race, especially those zealous for the Jewish law, among whom he was once counted. Yet, in today's second reading, he expresses his conviction that those who are opposed to him and to the gospel of God's Son will one day come to experience God's mercy. God has imprisoned all people in their own disobedience only to show mercy to all mankind. We have here a very generous vision of God's merciful love. Paul's generous vision of God finds full expression in the ministry of Jesus. Jesus, like Paul, was a Jew. He had a strong sense that his mission was to be initially to his own people. He wanted to renew Israel, and a renewed Israel would bring the gospel to the pagan world. It was only after the resurrection that Jesus launched the mission of the gospel to the pagan world as well as the Jewish world. Go make disciples of all missions. In the gospel, however, Jesus is approached by a pagan woman. She is described by Matthew as a Canaanite woman. Canaanite being a term traditionally used in the Bible for the enemies of Israel. Her need is great. Her daughter is seriously ill. Yet, Jesus seems very reluctant to respond to her desperate plea. He tells her that his mission is to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. In a mini parable, he tells her that the food intended for the children of Israel, cannot be given to the house dogs, the pagans, or the children will go hungry. With a great humility and humor, the woman expresses her prayer afresh in the language of Jesus' parable. Even the house dogs can eat the scraps that fall from their master's table. In other words, the children and the dogs can feed together. Jesus immediately recognized her great faith and responds to her request. In a sense, Jesus is helped by this woman to see her not as the other, but as one of his own, a member of God's people. Jesus encountered faith from unexpected quarter and it changed him. His eventual response to her reveals that the embrace of God is not a closed circle. It is always expanding outwards. The worst forms of religious fanaticism always draw narrow circles with no tolerance for anything beyond that circle. That is the message of all three readings today's Sunday. The embrace of God is not a closed circle. All have the mercy of God available to them. In the words of today's first reading, God's house to be a house of prayer for all the peoples. A lot of meetings takes place in the circle now. Circles have a value. They are egalitarians in shape, yet circles can easily become closed and difficult to penetrate. God's embrace is not kind of that circle. It is an ever-expanding circle that seeks to draw in all sorts of people. The calling of the gospel is to keep widening our circle until it becomes as wide as God's circle, so that we cease to recognize those different from us as alien, but as brothers and sisters in Christ, as brothers and sisters in humanity.